Hey, Tarithal here. Before this episode begins, I wanted to mention that we are streaming on all major podcast providers and also have a Discord where you can come and hang out with us. We're currently trying to get picked up by YouTube's algorithm, so if you enjoy what you hear, we would appreciate it if you could like, comment, or subscribe and let us know that you found us. Thanks again for listening. Hope you enjoy the episode. Hey, welcome back to the Depleted Key podcast where we talk about all things World of Warcraft. Today is February 15th, 2021, and this is episode 3. I'm Tarithal, and as always, I'm joined by Spoogy.
What is up?
What's going on, Spoogy? How's your week been going?
It was not a very productive week as far as the vault goes, but I did level a new character. At this point in the tier, I'm kind of wanting to get a little bit more PvP oriented. So I leveled a mage. Planning on doing fire mage, but that's where most of my time went this week. I'm actually doing a big gamble with the vault on my main, the resto druid. I'm only going to have, well, I guess I'll have more than one option. I did do the raid, but...
Well, the raid really isn't like a real option, right? Because you only get a 213 out of it.
Right. So, yeah, I really got one out. I only did 115 this week, which, well, actually it was a 16, but still, that was all I did for M+ this week. How about you?
Kind of the same, actually. For as much as we've been bashing PvP, most of my week was spent PvPing, I would say as well. I've been trying to keep my 3 characters up, and I think I have 2 rewards on my tank, and I think I have 1 real reward on my priest and my windwalker. So I'm kind of gambling on those as well.
Yeah, I don't even think I got anything done on the hunter this week. I tried to get him into the raid, but it was just one of those weeks where the alt run was hurting so bad that I had to pretty much bench myself and bring in the resto druid to get the raid through it.
Oh, yeah.
So he didn't actually get that this week, which was a little rough. But I didn't get any M+ on him as well, so I just ran into too many things to do. It was quite unfortunate. I hit max level last night, which was Sunday. And then today I had to knock out a bunch of things to kind of get ready before the reset.
Yeah, I caught myself doing that too. I was usually, come Friday, I'm usually done doing all my chores, right? I'm usually done with Torghast. Right. I'm usually done, getting my renown capped on my 3 characters. And I had to go through today and check every single character, and I was actually missing it on my tank. And so I had to go through and do my Torghast. I had to get my renown up. And I don't like doing that on Monday.
No, it's rough. Actually ran into a funny situation in which the Fire Mage Legendary, which is the headpiece that as you crit, you gain more damage on the next one. And it stacks. It just keeps on stacking up. So, when you combust, it is a huge, huge boon, whether you're in a raid or you're in Mythic Plus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not too bad for PvP. There's a better one in which, you pop your Blazing Shield. You actually get all 3 shields, the Frost and the Arcane one as well.
Yeah, I know that got nerfed, but I'm still hearing it's probably best in slot for Arena right now.
Well, I was just, sitting there doing my Torghast on my mage today because I had to get it done today in order to maximize myself. And I'm like, well, let me just see where that drops. And it was the world boss today. That was about to go away for a month. And so I was like, oh my goodness, had I missed that, I would have been so
You got it though.
Sad. I did get it. And I did get my Torghast in.
Floor 8s?
I did both floor 8s, and yeah, it was one of those things just like, wow, like I almost missed that, and I would have been so sad. Like I would have pretty much be gimped for a month till that world boss came back out. So
yeah,
really happy I caught that.
Yeah, I think it was a good week to level alt and do some PvP. The M+ just really didn't feel all that exciting this week. It was actually kind of a pain in the butt.
It was tyrannical, bursting, explosive, and prideful. And when as we know, explosive, not too much of a big deal. Your healers can actually get it, but bursting, once you start getting up on those higher keys, they really kind of hurt. Tyrannical is just a pain pain in the butt no matter what.
The few keys that I did do this week, I did them as a healer. I went in actually on my monk instead of playing Windwalker. For one, I actually fist wove the fist wove. I played a fist weaver in the raid this week for fun, and actually it kind of pumps. It actually does a lot of healing.
Did you have to like sit down and drink mana after every pull?
No.
That is the biggest. See, that is the biggest gripe that people have is they are constantly mana starved, and so that's what I'm always reading about them.
No, I picked up a talent that when I blackout kick, I get like it's 0.5% of mana back. But
okay,
I just basically it kind of feels like a discipline priest where I just put either my renewing mist or else I put my essence font on people, and then every time I kick my rising sun kick, it does pretty substantial healing. And then I have a legendary to support it, and yeah, it pumps. But anyways, I did a couple keys on as a mist weaver and or fist weaving rather, and it felt pretty good. And then I switched over to my discipline priest, and oh my gosh, it felt awful. Try to AoE heal as a discipline priest, and most people were just saying, "Oh, just mass dispel forehead." But it's like if your team's not lining up, the big pulls every 45 seconds, you don't have mass dispel. And maybe it was just the groups I was in this week, but they were definitely not being kind to me.
It definitely takes a certain level of coordination to make that really work for discipline priests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was tough. My only experience of bursting this tier was like the very first week, and I believe we got a 10 in.
Yeah, we did a 10 Plaguefall in time in the first week, which out of all of the dungeons we could have done, a Plaguefall is pretty good.
Yeah, and the bursting really wasn't that big of a deal to me that week. I don't really remember it being too painful.
Mm-hmm.
But what they did this tier was they took it away from a percent. So instead of a percentage of your health, like 2% or each stack or something like that, a second, they changed it to just a flat damage that scales with the key.
Yeah, up to a 15 key.
Yeah, and I felt it on the 15. I was like, oh my goodness. That was, it felt so, like, I was like, wow, having to try to dispel somebody and, heal up the rest real quick. And while at the same time, keep up a tempo of, timing the key and trying to get the explosives. Like, oh, healers can get this. And it's like, well, I'm trying here. But I'll tell you, the boss that got me was Patty Cakes.
Yes. Freaking butterfly in midst of Tyrna Scythe.
Yes, that would be the second boss?
Yes.
And oh my goodness.
Between that, just doing the normal mechanics and then trying to hunt down the explosives if they're making the healer focus them, it's a pain.
Yeah, we had a situation where we had some dumb goose. One, we had some DPS getting killed by the balls. We scuffed it a couple times. And then after we got the scuffs out the way, then it was like, well, now it's my turn to scuff it. And then I wiped us twice, I think.
Yeah, I wiped us once or twice as well.
and it was one of those situations where, like, I'm focusing on 5 different things, and the balls come out, and like as I'm moving, I see a explosive on the corner of my screen, and then I rotate, and just tracking way too many different things, and bam, one shot. I'm like, oh my goodness, that boss, so much damage comes out. It is crazy. You're trying to heal so much, get explosives, and then do the mechanics at the same time. It was just, I don't know.
Yeah, every group I was in this week too, like they wanted to line up their cooldowns for like the in-between phases, like not the phase where you're actually trying to kill the clone, but like the phases in between clones to push it to the next clone phase, and it's completely opposite of what you should be doing. It's radical.
It's tough like that, and so much damage comes out on that phase, and not so much on the regular phase.
No, nothing happens in the regular phase. It's super easy in the regular phase.
CC the Vulpin and dodge balls. That's really all you got to do. Explosive week, get the explosives, but not too stressful. But it's those clone phases. Massive damage is coming out. Your healers got their nose stuck right into the health bars there, and it's oh my goodness, and nothing's there to speed it up. All the cooldowns are down.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because our group seems to do really well on the tough dungeons, and then the easy dungeons, for whatever reason, like the mist and the halls, we always seem to screw up. I don't know if it's because we just never do them, but put us in a tyrannical, bolstering, necrotic, sanguine depths, we'll crush it. I mean, we'll have 5 to 7 minutes left, out of 15 or 16. But yeah, stupid butterfly boss in a mist.
And we had like what 2 or 3 mists, 15 plus keys.
Yeah.
And it's like we did the 16, and I was just like, I'm gonna go like sit in a cold shower now. I don't even want to do anymore.
Yeah.
But we did complete it. But that was all I got done this week as far as M plus.
Yeah, my week went pretty well. We did a lot of raiding. My guild it's kind of funny. We were talking last episode about what our plans were and everything, and my guild had a little bit of a fallout. We had some issues with the officer team from the last tier, and I actually just joined this guild this tier, so everything that they were talking about was pretty foreign to me. But it sounds like the people that were mainly, I guess, having issues, internally. I think most of them left, and we're kind of back to business as usual. Nothing really abnormal happened this week, and we actually went through heroic and one shot every single boss.
Nice.
Yeah, which was pretty cool. And they brought in a couple new trials. I think we had 5 new trials in a single run, and we one shot every single boss, so that looked pretty good for us.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and we did an alt run. We did. My guild does this funny thing. We have a guy that programs add-ons in our guild, and he's got a gambling add-on that he created. And so as we're going through trash, in between pulls or whatever, people are just constantly gambling their gold away. And I started the alt run that we did. We did an alt run last night, and I went into the raid with I think about 18k, and I walked out with about 120k. So it was it was a pretty good run for me.
My guild does something similar to that.
Yeah.
If there's any downtime, they will pick a random number, right? And that's whatever you're betting.
Oh, a death roll? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the death roll where, whatever you roll, then you roll to say you roll 10,000 and you get 5,000. Well, you roll 1 to 5,000 again, and whatever that cuts down to until you get to 1, and then whoever gets to 1 first wins.
Okay.
And so
is it like whoever if the roll is originally 10,000, is 10,000 the payout to whoever wins?
Right. And so they'll roll, and then whoever wants to take them on will roll the new roll with them. Whatever the cutoff was, and they go from there. And then it's just spam as hard as you can. And there's a little bit of strategy to it. If somebody hits, you don't always want to be the first roll in if you're getting down to those lower numbers, because then you can set somebody up to get the 1.
Okay.
But they do that a lot. I have not partaked in that, but yeah, we're my guild was a fresh guild. They never really have pushed too much content before. We have a lot of people who never raided before, and it's been a complete building up process with a couple of us who are veterans of the process, kind of coaching them through it, and getting them, let's be reasonable about our goals and what we want to do, because when we join, they're like, we want to be a cutting edge guild, we're gonna get mythic down this tier, and I'm like, maybe this tier we focus on AOTC, build up the roster a little bit, and take a swing at some of the early mythic bosses for this tier, and kind of cut our teeth on it a little bit, and and then move on next tier, and kind of build upwards, because they were at rock bottom. They had no real good experience to really build off of.
Sure.
But yeah, we're kind of hitting a point where we cleared the tier, we got AOTC, and people are trying out different tunes, trying to more better optimize the raid a little bit. We're kind of doing a little bit of fine tuning, building up some other tunes right now, and maybe kind of flesh out our healing team a little bit better and our DPS. But it's a week by week thing, but they're kind of getting it.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing either. I think a lot of people are burned out of the raid right now, and so just being able to do other things on the side is probably pretty enjoyable.
It is, and that's one of the reasons why I made the mage is to be able to jump into some arenas and RBGs and things. Um, I will say I feel like we are hitting that plateau with the mains as far as gear.
Mm-hmm.
Not much more we can really get, unless we're hitting the upper tier of mythic rating now, and not really a need for me to do too much, mythic plus. I mean, unless I want to get some IO, which this week was definitely not the week for it.
No.
But yeah, I think that plateau is kind of going hand to hand to my desire to really grind out things on the druid right now.
Yeah,
So
I actually had my first dead week in the vault. I had spoken, I think, last episode where I said I hadn't had a bad vault yet, but I finally had one. I had one on my 218 monk, and I think I had 3 options to choose from. And out of the 3 options, I only had a pole arm available. And currently, I'm wearing a 226 main hand with a 213 offhand. And so a 226 pole arm is like, it's a DPS sim loss. But I mean, I just kind of grabbed it, to have some base score because it technically bumps me up 2 item level of my non-equipped. And who knows, maybe they'll eventually give it like a 5% buff or something. Doubtful.
Yeah,
maybe.
Mine was I ended up picking up some 226 gloves over some and I already had 220 gloves, so it was kind of a week for me. I think you kind of cursed us on that, but
yeah, probably.
I still got a few pieces that could definitely, not many, but like I know I have a 207 helm, and there's always that 1 in a million shot that my 1 vault slot might help me out this week. But then again, it's really plateau. There's really not much. Even if I do get that boosted up, it's not really going to be much more character power,
Yeah, definitely understand that. Okay, well, I think we have covered our weeks pretty well. A lot of big news this week.
By the hour, every time you sit down to pull all this information in and make sense of it, there's more coming out. But 9.05 is going to be coming out. They're talking about March, but that was announced this past week, and a lot of big stuff coming in.
Yeah, we were getting literally updates by the hour on Wowhead, and we have a bot in our Discord that tells us anytime anything new comes out, and literally by the hour, update by update. So finally, that 9.0.5 patch, which was encrypted on the PTR last week, it's no longer encrypted, and people are starting to figure out what's going on there. Some of the highlights include a Valor system for M+, which we were talking about a week or 2 ago. We had talked about that pretty much being a certainty, and sure enough,
Prophet calling it ahead of time.
Well, yeah, we did for sure, but I think everyone kind of
it was the writing was on the wall that something like that had to.
Yeah,
had to happen.
Literally everyone was talking about it, so I don't think Blizzard could ignore that. So I guess, do you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, I will say I think overall though, probably one of the better launches they've had recently, where they haven't had to do some sort of big fix, right? Valor is obviously it's a new thing coming in, it's trying to fix something, but I think overall, compared to BFA, the Azerite powers are horrible, and Legion, you had all the weapon tuning and things. They're having to do some big fixes on that. I think this is more tuning, and then you bring in Valor, which is a great thing, but it's going to be very similar to how PvP and Conquest works. PvP is, you can buy the piece with Conquest, and then based on whatever rating you have in 2s, 3s, or rated battlegrounds, you can then boost up your gear with Honor. I think 1400 was 207.
Yeah, 1400 is 207, 1600 is 213, 1800 is 220, 2100 is 226, and then if you happen to get to 2400, you can boost your weapons up to 233.
Yeah, yep. And this is going to be very similar. So basically, Valor is, as you do in Mythic Plus, you're going to be able to upgrade drops, and it's not going to be the drops you already have. So everything you've got from Mythic Plus right now will not be able to be upgraded, but you will be able to boost the item level with this new currency. on drops that will happen after 9.05. And whatever you can upgrade, Blizzard says will be clearly labeled as such. So there's no confusion. There's no need to start hoarding gear and filling your bags up with things you want to boost up now. But it's going to be based on what keys you have completed all the way across. So this is for every single dungeon. If you've completed an 8 in all dungeons, you will be able to boost your gear up to item level 207. If you've done 10s, you will be able to boost your item level on those pieces up to 213. And then if you've got KSM, the Keystone Master, you'll be able to boost your gear up for 15s up to 220.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good change. I mean, PvP for a lot of people is just unobtainable. I don't know. There's just such an unfair advantage for people that are either paying for a boost or else, actually able to do the content themselves, the PvP content. But there's just, for someone who does AOTC every week and then a couple of mythic bosses, I'm still way behind the PvPers. I think that'll kind of even things out.
I think so too. And I think they did a very fair thing with making it on those drops 9.05 and beyond. So you're not completely, it gives you a reason, to do Mythic Plus now, right? Like, yeah, you can do a bunch and kind of stack your Great Vault up, which, the Great Vault, still Blizzard wants that to be your kind of, your big piece for the week, come from that, which, cool. I'm okay with that. But, it felt very underwhelming for that one piece to drop. And most of the time you're just getting anima, and these things are huge time sinks. I mean, some of these are, 40 minutes of just pure dedication. So you don't scuff the key, just focus, do, everything correctly. And I'm not bashing M plus because I love doing that. I love that, small group, high level of difficulty content, I wish there was more things that we could do in smaller groups, but it's giving you a reward now. It's something good in my opinion.
I don't think Blizzard will hold us to that system forever, though.
The thing about Valor, I would like to see this go into the next tier, because the difficulty will be squeezed up a little bit. Doing a 15 this tier is going to be doing like an 8 in the next tier, and so it's going to get harder and harder as it goes on. I think it's going to be, but of course, our power level will increase as well as, we get more gear. But it's not going to be much of a boon to us now on the mains, but it could be something that could help out the alts gear. And the question is, have they clarified the achievement?
Yeah, we were talking about this, and ironically, we were talking about this outside of the podcast, and then I actually listened to the Titan Forge podcast this week, and they kind of beat us to the message there, and we're kind of wondering, they've mentioned that the 220 gear is going to be tied to the actual achievement KSM, but the thing about the KSM achievement is it's an account bound achievement.
It is a blue achievement. It is account wide. I mean, you can mount up on that mount on any tune, and you can pull up that achievement on any tune, and
right. And I'm actually currently impacted by this because I think on my Windwalker Monk and my Demon Hunter, I'm only missing 115 key, but in between the two characters, I have everything covered. So for me, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to upgrade that gear, and it's not that big of a deal because obviously I can get it, but at the same time, it's kind of curious I'm curious if they're going to catch that or not.
Yeah, my opinion is I don't think they intend it to be an account wide deal.
I don't either. PvP is not that way, so it doesn't make sense.
No, it's not. So I don't think it's intended that way. But right now, KSM is an account wide achievement, so that's got me a little curious about it. But they also did a little bit of raid tuning for the drops as well. Earlier in the week, this is one of those things we're talking about with the information coming in. Almost felt like it's hourly. They dropped Valor. They put that out there, and then Ion put a tweet out. And he says, "You know what? We really don't want to miss with drop rates mid-tier." Talking about the raid, because he said, "I understand it is unsatisfactory. It feels like it's not enough loot." and he put that tweet out there. Ian?
Yeah, it's you.
Ian, he put out since then 33% more loot in all difficulties, normal, heroic, and mythic. So what you're looking at is if you have a 10-player raid, you're going to see 2 drops per boss. 20-player raid, 4 drops. So they did boost the drops mid-tier, which is something he earlier in the week said they don't want to do. And they also said that they're going to increase weapon token drops, which they did not give a specific number as of right now. I don't have that, but the patch notes just said they're going to increase those drop rates. So
yeah, and I think that's just something that they typically do at the end of a raid tier. You know, they want to make the loot more accessible as they push on to harder content. And I mean, they do that at the end of each expansion too, so that's not really unusual. I'll be curious what they do next raid tier though, if that's a pattern of just dropping more loot in general.
Well, I hope that they kind of keep these changes going forward, because that was the biggest gripe of Shadowlands, was there you felt a little starved. And personally, I was not really too worried about that myself. I feel like it gave us a chance to enjoy more of the game, get more mileage out of it before being tired, because it's like I can still go higher, I can still grind more out, right? But the raid in particular felt so dry. I didn't even, after a while, I didn't even bother looking at the loot tables, because I was just getting more gear, getting that one piece each week from the Great Vault that was just higher item level than the 213. And it just really kind of felt like I was doing the raid more for my guild and for the AOTC achievement than actually the gear itself, because I didn't get hardly any gear, any drops each week. I was lucky if I got one piece. And usually I was trading that away because I'd already surpassed that, that item level by the time I was getting that drop. So I hope they keep that going. That's one thing I hope they keep going. I do hope Valor is a thing to stay now, because I believe that kind of gives more incentive to do that N+, but we'll see.
Right, and so the other big topic in 9.0.5 is Fleshcraft. So apparently now while you're casting it, you get 30% reduced damage and a 40% shield.
Which was a 20% shield previously. Now it's 40%. So pretty much it got doubled.
Right, and so the high-end guilds right now are talking about making that mandatory for most of their classes if it's viable, because that's essentially a raid cooldown on a short cooldown.
Right, it's for 3 seconds you have that full 30% reduction while casting. I think that's going to be very, very powerful for PvE. I don't really think it's going to be a huge deal in PvP, because you can interrupt it. But I will say, if they get that off, that is a huge meat shield to have to go through.
I know for my Demon Hunter specifically, I think people are talking now that Necrolords might be the go-to Demon Hunter spec for tanks. And I'm not real excited about having to reroll.
I'm hearing it might be the go-to for all the tanks.
Yeah, it could be, just with that shield amount.
Yeah, my Blood DK, that tanks for my guild, is actually already there, and so he was actually pretty excited to hear about this. But yeah, Limit Max was joking. He's like, everybody's just going to get fleshed on come 9.05.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. I think we'll see a lot of it, and we'll see a lot of angry people having to switch over.
You see a lot of resto shamans right now that are already doing the Fleshcraft. So, like I said, I suck at PvP. They are so hard to kill right now. Now you just doubled their shield, and they got 30% damage reduction while casting. Yeah, you can interrupt it, but like in arena, it's almost like it's one more thing to have to focus on there. But that's one of the ones where I'm a little apprehensive, but I'm let's see it play out and kind of see how much of an impact it has.
Are there any other Covenant changes that I guess impact you specifically? I could think of a couple for me.
See, I think a lot of it was tooltip updates or something, because they said Convoke, which is the Night Fae Druid ability, it's 16 spells. You press it, and basically your Druid goes wild and cast out 16 spells in very rapid succession. what they rolled out said it was going up from 12 to 16. So, we were looking at that. I'm like, isn't it already 16? That's what I've been tracking this whole time. So I'm wondering if maybe that's a tooltip update or something, but nothing really else really affected me.
I'm hearing, well, for one, disc priests are getting nerfed. They haven't said a specific amount, I don't think. Spirit Shell, I think right now there's a placeholder of 20% reduction.
That's the current iteration right now, PTR.
I guess I don't quite understand what they're reducing, and I don't know if they've specified. So the thing with the thing with Spirit Shell is that the actual shield that you put on every player caps out at 60% of your life, right? So one, there's a couple tricks with that, right? So during your ramp cycle, you can hit Desperate Prayer to increase your max health, and then you can cast bigger shields on everyone. But the thing is, I don't know if they're capping or if they're reducing the max shield that you can apply to everyone, or if they're just reducing every time you cast an ability how much of the shield is getting added into the Spirit Shell until you reach the cap. Because if you can still reach the cap, during a full Spirit Shell cycle, then there's really not a nerf. As long as you're just blocking one large hit of damage. I guess the best way to use Spirit Shell is to max out the Spirit Shell, let the hit happen, and then still have some Spirit Shell left over that you can continue to ramp, through the damage phase. But, in situations where all the damage happens at once, it's not really gonna do anything.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about that too, but I think it was the overall cap is what I was understanding was going to be reduced. But
I
don't have anything to back that up. That was just my original understanding from it, and I've heard countless people talk about it, but none of it really seemed too definitive.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm also hearing that potentially, I believe the Fey Guardians. I think that is the wrong name, but the Night Fey Priest Covenant spell. I'm hearing that's getting a nice buff, and it could potentially overtake Venthyr.
For which one?
For a priest, just healing priests in general.
Okay, yeah.
So that might be an interesting change. And I'm also hearing that for the Demon Hunter, the conduit that reduces your fiery brand is getting reworked. And so now it's actually going to reduce the cooldown of Fell Defender, which is a 1 minute cooldown where you spit out fire and it heals you and it puts you into metamorphosis. And so I'm kind of wondering if that, in conjunction with the legendary that has a 20% chance to make Fell Defender not go on cooldown, I wonder if that's going to start becoming more popular.
That might, because you could really get some really big uptime on that then.
Yeah, you really could. I'll be curious to see what the final numbers are on that conduit, but I mean, even if you could get it down to a 50-second cooldown with a 20% chance for it to not go on cooldown, I mean, you could just have a ton of time on metamorphoses.
Another thing they've talked about is there will be some legendary changes happening right now. Not really anything big has been put out at the moment. They just said they're going to work on them. And the thing is, they're not going to, their big plan overall, we know Blizzard has a way of not really sticking to their word sometimes or missing the picture completely. But I will say they are promising to not really nerf anything that you have already busted your butt for in Chorgas. And instead, they want to more buff the ones that are seeing absolutely nobody pick them up kind of deal. See if you basically put more options on the table, make some of the lesser known ones more competitive.
Right,
is the main goal for those changes. But that's one of those things you got to kind of watch as they get some playtime on the PTR, because as of right now, there's no real good information out about the legendaries. But speaking about Chorgas, they did put a thing called Stygia Crafting, which is there's going to be a hidden soul forge that you'll have to get to with some brand new grapple points, using your little rope ability.
Right.
You grapple up and there'll be a thing up there. They're not really sure what that's going to be used for yet, but that is going to be a new thing, is Stygia Crafting.
Yeah, they're talking about a new mount. So I think there is already some data that's been mined that there is a new mount that's going to be available. And they're just kind of piecing together if these are the components that are going to be able to ultimately craft it. And my last favorite change is more mailboxes in Oribos. Go Blizzard.
Yes, they are. I think there's 3 more they're putting in. because right now you really only have that one, and then you get 3 long boys right there, and it becomes a mess sometimes. So I would like to see some more Orbo's quality of life changes. I hate that city. I hate the way it's laid out. I always feel like I'm in the wrong side of it for whatever I'm trying to do, whether it's go to the bank or find the flight master. I feel like I'm always a little bit, just because it's a circle, and everything looks the same from wherever you're at, right? So I'm hoping to see some more quality of life there, something to make that place a little bit more user friendly.
Okay, so that seems to be all the changes, at least that we highlighted. Another big thing happening this weekend is BlizzCon. I believe it starts on Friday.
Blizz, they have a funny name for it. Is it BlizzConline?
Yeah, BlizzCon Online. Or BlizzCon
Yeah.
Online, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, really? Okay. But and one of the very first things that they're going to have happen when they launch BlizzConline is, I guess, the first what table is going to be what's next for World of Warcraft. They kind of got the prize seat there over Diablo and Hearthstone and all that good stuff. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we're going to get some 9.1 information, because usually BlizzCon is where you do see that, and we start getting some more information. And I would like to see some information about that next raid. Start hitting the MMO champion and Wowhead, and let us start thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah, and I think they will. I think they'll do two things, right? I think they'll talk about what's next for the raid, and also what the new seasonal effects will be for M+, which I'm really excited for them to talk about.
What would you like to see for the next affix?
So we kind of talked off podcasts, what potentially could be, and I think they'll do something with the 4 covenants. I think what I kind of envisioned is maybe they'll have a champion from each covenant layered throughout each dungeon, and each one will do something nasty to you, right? So we were talking earlier about the butterfly boss on Mist of Tyrna Scythe, and how she summons the ghost fox that follows you around, right?
Oh my goodness, yes.
And so maybe when you're in a certain area, the Night Fae champion will summon this fox that, if it hits an enemy, it'll explode and freeze everything in its path. Or if it hits you, it'll freeze you in your its path. And so it's kind of something you control, right? So either you kite it really well and CC everything down, or else you get hit by it and it just wrecks your key. And so some sort of effect for each of those, scattered throughout the dungeon, might be kind of interesting. That only happens while you're in a certain part of the dungeon. I could see them layering the dungeon into 4 sections, and the effect just kind of happens. Or maybe it just happens if you're in a Night Fae dungeon, you just get that permanently throughout the dungeon, which might be interesting, having 4 effects in the different zones. But I could see something.
I would definitely I think it would be good to bring that theme in, because that's something we're all, that was a big part of Shadowlands, was picking the Covenant and kind of pledging your allegiance to it. And you do get a little bit of buff here and there, being able to click things in the dungeons, say Night Fae, and the other side, being able to click those pots and things. I think overall, Prideful will go down as not being a terribly bad seasonal fix. But I also
really enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed it.
I don't think it's going to be go down or be remembered as a great one either. But from a healer point of view, you really don't ever have to drink with Prideful, which is a great thing, because every 20% you're hitting that mana back buff, where you can just spam spells for that. Was it a minute?
Yep.
But it's a very straightforward fix, right? 20% mobs, mini boss, you do it, you get a buff, right? It doesn't really. You saw some variance in the runs from a standard, sub 10 run, where you may go pull a packs here and here that you may not normally do. The first one that comes to mind is Theater of Pain, going in and grabbing some packs from that one tunnel, and then turning around, going back the other way, just to kind of make your numbers line up for the bosses and things, or the more dangerous trash packs. But it really didn't change the game that much. Like the very last affix for BFA is by far my favorite so far. You have 4 mini bosses, and they had these pillars. You click it, you go into like basically the upside down, like in Stranger Things, and you can kill the boss, this little mini boss, and wherever you killed them, you opened a portal. That portal would link up to where the pillar was, so you could portal around basically, and it completely changed Mythic Plus. The routes were completely flipped on their heads. There was, you didn't see one particular route that you just learned for the entire tier. You would see a tank come in and they would do something completely. I mean, it would all work, as long as everything lined up. And if you skipped a pillar, when you did the very last boss of that dungeon, that mini boss would come out, and you would basically have to handle the end boss of the dungeon plus whatever mini bosses you skipped. So you had the option of ignoring one or two, and you also had the option of just completely changing your where you wanted to go. Because when you were in the other dimension, you could run anywhere. Everything was kind of phased out. You could see the trash packs that were there, but they would not aggro on you or anything like that. And to me, that was great because you could have so many crazy routes. I mean, it was so fun to sit down with, the planning tool and the Mythic Dungeon tools, and just or Method Dungeon tools back then, and just plot out some routes, because you could have so much fun with it. And as a DP, if you're a DPS, you're just kind of like, okay, follow the tank, because you'd have to actually plan out a good route, and instead of just memorizing one route for numbers like it is now. That's the only reason I kind of bash Prideful a little bit. It's so straightforward, but as a healer, I didn't hate it because you did get that mana back. But I would like to see an affix that changes the route, something that gives you more options in the way you want to do the dungeon.
Do you have any ideas for that?
Every time I try to come up with the idea, it comes up with some sort of teleport. I would like to see if you do have, say, like a Covenant guy you have to go handle, maybe have a teleport there that has multiple paths, and you pick one and it locks that one in, maybe.
Okay.
So you could have multiple different routes open up to you, and it can teleport you around. I mean, problem is a lot of these Shadowlands dungeons are pretty linear. Spires comes to mind, to where there's not really much backtracking because you're going up to higher islands as you're going. But I don't know. I wish there was something there that really changed up seeing the same routes every time. It was exciting,
I just want them to come up with an affix where every 30 seconds 2 random party members get hit with mind games. That's all I want to see.
Oh God, mind games.
So every 30 seconds 2 people hit with mind games. Can't dispel it either. This version you can't dispel.
Oh, they just would be killing themselves
for 5 seconds. They can't do anything.
They just stand there.
No, I don't really want to see that. That'd be awful.
That'd be painful. Which actually, you guys, you and Lights got on the alts. What, 1400?
Yeah. So he has a
brand new.
Yeah, he's got a brand new Warlock, and it's like brand new. I mean, it was 2 days old, and I've got a Disc Priest, which is just 213 eye level. It's not that high. Yeah, and really, I don't have any arena experience on it whatsoever. But he and I went in there and just probably played about 50 games and hit 1400 in one sitting. So that's pretty cool.
And I was smashing my face against my keyboard, leveling my mage as fast as I could.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to y'all, and it's just as soon as like, okay, I'm gonna use mind games here. Then I would hear a bunch of giggling, and y'all had won, right? That was pretty much what happens. Mind games, giggle, win.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty good at that, like reading when I can use it as an execute.
Yeah,
and that's fun. I really like that ability.
Yeah. So yeah, I just hope that the next affix is fun. There was one in BFA that I thought was terrible, which was you had the different kind of ads spaced out, where you had to. One was basically an inspiring mob, where as long as that ad was up, you couldn't interrupt, you couldn't CC or anything like that. There was one that had a cast bar, and when the cast finished, it was pretty much would one-shot you. So you had to line of sight it. So you jump in on it, DPS real hard, line of sight. It was just boring. It didn't change up anything besides maybe you want to. There's a few spots where you just kind of wanted to rogue stealth by it, just because it made some trash packs really hard.
Right.
But the very last one with the pillars and the 4 mini bosses, that was a great affix. I just hope we see something like that.
Yeah, admittedly, I haven't done that many seasons. I remember the pillars from BFA, and the teleport system, and everyone said whoever came up with that was a genius. Because at the time, rogues were just everywhere. Everyone wanted a rogue and a high key because that was the only way of doing skips.
Right. You had to have it.
Right, and so I guess once that came out, that kind of just broke the meta completely.
Oh yeah. It was great. And then when watching MDI, it's like, what are these guys doing, right? And
Right.
then they would do some crazy skips, and then also they would also do crazy things like leave some mini bosses up, and so that last boss would be so nail biter because they were already difficult, but then you have this mini boss, and they were tough. They were very tough on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And you had it all happening all at once. It's like, let me see how they handle this. And it was just, I think it made MDI better. I think it made running it yourself more fun. So I'm excited about that. I'm also hoping we see the raid. And do you have any predictions?
Well, I think because of the pandemic and how limited the workforce really is right now and how much you can do from home, I think they're going to do a small raid. And I'll just reiterate what I think I said in a prior episode, but I think they're just going to do some sort of like Maldraxxus arena where there's not a lot of rooms.
TOC?
Yeah. I think they'll just be an arena where they just kind of flip bosses in and out of it, and that'll be it. I think specifically we'll fight. If you've done the Kyrian campaign, there's like all the Dark Angels. I think there'll be some sort of sect of that, and there'll be a boss as like a big Dark Angel, and it'll be like Maldraxxus theme with Bastion people that we fight.
Where it's kind of a flip on what you would think. Maldraxxus maybe the good guys, and those Dark Angels the bad.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
So I'm thinking at some point we will see more of the Dreadlords.
Okay.
Because there's a book in Revendreth that people have picked up that brings a lot of lore to this whole Denathrius storyline, which basically he ran one of the 4 major realms of the afterlife. They had already banished Jailer away, and these 4 guys were running it. And Denathrius was secretly decided to be in league with the Jailer and funnel souls to him. Right, that was the whole big thing. They found out, and you had to go in, and that was the current raid, Castle Nathria.
Okay.
Great theme. I love the whole castle, the Gothic castle. That was great.
Yeah, thematically, it was cool.
But if you look at him, he looks just like all the other Dreadlords that we had fought, with the Legion and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And this book talks about having spies everywhere, including the Legion. And so it's like those Dreadlords that you maybe are seeing in the past expansions and things.
Okay.
We're not really into all that, stuff that they're doing. They're just more there as spies for Denathrius and feeding him information about what was going on. But it also says that they have infiltrated the Light Army, which there is a I forget his name, Loraxion or something like that. There is a light converted Dreadlord from the whole Argus campaign that's there, and so I think we will see more of these guys. They are kind of in the lore are looking more and more like a bigger threat than we ever gave them credit for.
Okay.
They're more widespread, kind of got their fingers in more places than we realized. Plus, his death animation, when you kill him, we do bind him to Remoria, right? And you have that little quest where you can go on the top, and he's talking smack, and Prince Renethal, banishes him, right?
Right.
But when you finish the fight in Castle Nathria, the only thing that is left of him are his shoulders. They stop. They just fall to the ground, which is just kind of like how the Dreadlords die, and every other time we fought them, such as Legion and TBC and those kind of places. So I think they are going to be a bigger problem, or they may use the Dreadlords to somehow kind of segue as, since they've already infiltrated the Light Army, you may have we're fighting the light itself, which would be a really good, M. Night Shyamalan twist where, we're fighting, the light. But my other prediction, and I've got absolutely nothing to back this up. There's a lot of people doing a lot of deep diving on the whole Dreadlord thing.
Okay.
But dude, the brokers are the sketchiest dudes in WoW outside of goblins, which are basically these guys you see all over Orbos. You have the one that you primarily interact with in the mall, Venari, is that her name?
Okay.
But they seem so sketchy, and there's one point where they try to like backstab you in the quest line in the mall, and we really don't know much about them, which is quite unusual for WoW.
You think that's why they're cutting off the Stygia?
Maybe it could be a thing. But I would, and we fight one of them already, which is the Artificer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Problem is we don't kill the Artificer. He doesn't actually die in that fight. He just gets defeated, and he's just there testing out the weapons and things that the Nathrius is letting him play with. So I think one, it would be funny if he was a recurring boss on every tier. You just end up running into Artificer again, and he's playing with some new toy each time. But I also think that could be another potential theme for the next raid is maybe some brokers, because really I don't know much about them, and maybe the guy in charge of Orbos there, the guy the speaker that's mute or whatever, he could be something there.
I've changed my raid idea.
What's that?
I still think it's Maldraxxus, and I still think it's like the arena setting, but I think we're fighting KT.
Because I said repeat a boss?
No, just because KT was in the Venthyr storyline.
Oh, yeah.
And it just feels right. It feels like it's the time to bring KT back. Plus, what is the floating necropolis in Maldraxxus? I actually have no clue what that is. I see it on my map all the time, but I don't actually know what it is.
The one that moves around?
Yeah, do you know what that is?
I have no idea, because I don't have a Maldraxxus character. All three of my characters, I have a Resto Druid, Marksman Hunter, and now a Fire Mage. All three of those, Night Fae is pretty much best in slot. So I am completely like up to my eyeballs in like
theatrics and
hippie stuff, like the whole Night Fae
butterfly flute playing.
Right. We're just a whole kumbaya going on. And I really would love to play some Venthyr, because I want to get those armor sets.
Oh my gosh. The Covenant Hall for the Venthyr is awful, though. It's absolutely awful. Out of the three that I've seen so far, I haven't seen Maldraxxus yet, other than outside of Twitch, but it's awful. It's the worst one they designed.
That's the one you can fall off and die, right?
Yeah, I guess technically you could fall off the balcony. There's like a top floor and a bottom floor that you access through a mirror. You walk through a mirror, but you can't find anything. Like, I guess if you spend enough time in there, you probably know where everything is, but it just, like, compared to, like, Bastion, for example, Bastion is definitely S tier. And then Night Fae it's pretty good. I call Night Fae probably A tier. But I would definitely put Venthyr at F tier. It's just awful.
Night Fae, you're just in a freaking tree, man. And I hate it because it's so spread out.
Yeah.
But, that's why they gave us the whole shapeshift thing.
Yeah, I guess.
Because I feel like we're just having to like cover such large distance. But it's a tree. That all three of my tunes ended up in the same exact spot, and I'm just like, But I do like the theme, I guess I would say.
Yeah, Ardenweald is a good looking area. I mean, out of all the areas, that's probably my second favorite after Bastion.
It's chill. It's if you've got to spend a lot of time in game at one Covenant, it's not bad on your eyes, and it's not. I would say Revendreth is a pain in the neck to navigate because of all the giant cliffs and the big ramparts and things. I'm always getting lost whenever I'm trying to herb there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that problem with Ardenweald. I think it's a lot smoother, a lot easier to navigate. So
yeah,
I will say happy with that.
So I guess we'll start wrapping up into our last two segments. So this one is a little bit off the script, but is there anything else you want to see at BlizzCon?
That's the big. I mean, if they got any games up their sleeves, I would love to see that. One of my favorite series was, of course, StarCraft.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing, absolutely zilch in the pipeline for StarCraft. I mean,
Talk about, man, they're in the strategy section. StarCraft Legends,
oh my gosh.
whatever that is.
I would have loved a StarCraft 3 or anything. For years, I know it sounds dumb to say, but for years I like begged for a World of StarCraft because I thought,
Yeah.
a Blizzard quality MMO set in that universe would be so awesome. It's coming from the same blood, an RTS game to an MMO with such rich storylines. But I don't know. I just hope they got something up their sleeves. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been maintaining right now World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Diablo, which they are making another Diablo game, and that's probably going to be the big thing this year. Diablo is not my game.
They're saying Diablo 4 is like a long way out, which is kind of unusual considering they could put a WoW expansion out like every 2 years. I don't get why Diablo 4 is going to take them, 4 years to make. But me personally, I'm really excited for that. I love Diablo.
It's not my game. I know you guys love it.
It's
just not my thing.
But it's kind of unusual. BlizzCon this year, it's almost like 50% WoW and 50% Diablo. So it looks like it's going to be a big Diablo year for BlizzCon.
So anything you're hoping that they bring out?
Well, I hope they say, "Hey, Diablo 4 is coming out this year." But that's not going to happen. I don't know. I'm just looking for a good M+ seasonal fix. Kind of what I said isn't going to be that's not what it's going to be. They're going to do something creative. Yeah, I don't know. They had a teleport system. They had kind of a generic healer and DPS buff. I guess it's probably time for them to put out like another ad-based seasonal fix. So I guess that would be my guess of what's going to happen. And I think they'll announce it.
I'm thinking we're going to see those two on the first day. I think we'll see the new M+, and I think we'll see a hint of the raid. I think we'll at least know what zone it's in.
Well, I was going to say, I think they do that all within like the first hour or so of BlizzCon. I do have like a visual for the two of us to look at, but actually to the left of where I took that snapshot, there's actually a large section just for like the opening ceremony. And I believe that's typically where they do all of those introductions, and then the rest of BlizzCon is essentially exploring everything, all the new stuff that they talked about during the opening ceremony. So I think within the first 2 hours, we'll probably know, anything new.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I want to hear what's next. Like I said, I would love to see a new game as well. I think they have a lot less people working on Diablo than Warcraft, so that's one reason. And then they are, I think, switching back to the old Blizzard philosophy before the corporations really took over and Activision and all these other people got their fingers in. Because I actually was today just out of boredom reading a lot about the history of the company, and their old motto was forever. We don't care how long it takes. We're only going to put out the best quality, right?
Right.
And you looked at some of their games; they were all so well polished and fun to play. Even Heroes of the Storm, I love that. It was more of like a very simplified down MOBA in terms, when you compare it to things like League of Legends or Dota.
Right.
But it was fun,
and
it was polished, and you didn't really have bugs. League of Legends is notorious for bugs, but if they go back to that old philosophy, that's really going to make me excited, because that was like the golden age of Blizzard, where they said, you know what, we don't care. We can afford to push something back a little bit just to make sure it's the best possible quality.
Yeah, and I think they've have moved in that direction. I think that recently, with Shadowlands specifically, delaying the launch, I think they're definitely moving in that direction.
Yeah, that's pretty much how they started this whole expansion, was pushing it back, which made us a little sad, but it ended up working out in the long run, I think. Next week, it's going to be a 4 to 5 week, which is usually your push. But we've got a Sanguine Grievous.
Yeah, I think last time when Sanguine was out, it was pretty ignorable. I played a lot of Windwalker Monk that week, and basically anytime I saw a group get low, my ROP went down and just knocked everything out of the way. So I don't know. I think that's pretty ignorable, and as long as your tank is paying attention, you don't even really worry about it.
You also run with 2 druids, so
True.
we can push anything away from the Sanguine. Grievous makes me cry a little bit as a healer.
Really? I wasn't sure. I was actually thinking about that today. And personally, I haven't had to heal during a Grievous week, but I don't know. As long as like bursting's not happening, I don't really see that being like a major concern as long as your tank is popping cooldowns.
Yeah, it's not too bad. The first time it happened, I kind of forgot about it. You know, the very first week we launched into M plus, we got a 10 down, and I really wasn't feeling it on the 10. It keeps you busy though. As soon as they're below 90%, you've got to be healing that person to get it off of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you hit them with a direct heal, it will remove a stack of it.
Right.
And so it's not like in the past where it just keeps stacking to where you're kind of getting deeper in the hole while you're blowing all your mana trying to get them up to 90% again.
Right.
It's very manageable now as long as you are addressing it and at least trying. It won't bury you. I could see being a little bit tougher on the higher keys maybe, but as long as people are doing the right thing and avoiding damage that they can avoid, you'll be okay.
Yeah, I think it's looking like a push week, if we find the time to do it. I've actually been having trouble finding people that really want to push IO at this point. I think I was wrong about that. I think a week or two ago I said, the people that want to push KSM probably really care about IO, but the typical people that I usually see around wanting to push keys in my guild specifically, they just haven't really been around. And I don't know if it's just because we've had a couple bad weeks or if they're just burned out of the game, but I don't know. I just haven't really been seeing anyone around to push those high keys.
It's that sweet spot where you kind of hit a lot of your goals for the expansion,
mm-hmm.
and you went so hard for say the first 2 months that some people may just need a break for a week or two.
Right.
And so you may see some more people willing to play this 4 to 5 week than say 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I think it'll be a good week.
Okay. Well, I believe that about wraps up our episode for, was it February 15th, 2021. I'm Tarithal, and joining with me as always is Spoogy. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Have a good one.